Good morning, everyone. If you can quickly take a seat and then we'll get things started. So this morning's session is on the ADB private sector operations and high-level technology. I will just give a very quick preamble that, I realise that predominantly you want to hear about opportunities and how you can interact with what ADB deliver its vision, then please don't be shy about coming up and talking to people later or reaching out in some way, because we do need your assistance to deliver our very challenging vision. So the structure today is that we'll be having 3 very knowledgeable speakers. Each speaker will talk for between 10 and 15 minutes, and then there'll be a 5-minute Q&A after each speaker. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Cleo Kawawaki. Apologies for the pronunciation. Cleo is the head of the Office of Market Developments and Public-Private Partnerships in ADB. Thank you, Cleo.
Someone teach me how to do this. Because there's 2 things on 2 different screens.
Just click.
Nope, it doesn't change over here. Oh, there it goes. It's a little slow. Okay. So, does anyone know who we are? Raise your hands if you know the Office of Market Development and PPPs. Yay, 1 person. Okay. So I guess I should explain what we do. And we're established to, okay, I can read that, or support the enabling environment for public sector and market development. We were called the Office of PPP before, so we were concentrated in PPPs, but because of our private sector shift, we were renamed as Office of Market Development and PPPs, because if you're going to shift to the private sector, you have to have market development. So that's our story. Hopefully you can tell me that next year when, maybe we'll change, but I don't know. Okay. So we advocate and engage private sector development. That's our advocacy role. We provide advisory for private sector investment and capital mobilization to government clients. So, we strategize and formulate and build capacity. So in this puzzle that we have for PPP and now PSD, we try to bridge what the gaps are. We're really about gaps. So when there is a market failure, market gap, or no new market for some necessary investment that is appearing from the DMC side, we try to fill it through our advisory work. We fill it through our enabling environment work, and through our capacity building. And this is all to deliver long-term value for money. Okay, so I'd like to call it, like doing more with other people's money, hopefully, and making the most of the limited fiscal capacity of government. So achievements so far, we have like 70 projects that we've supported. Not projects, products that we've supported, $2 billion in capital mobilization. All of our new projects go through a climate lens and a gender lens. Right now we're about 60% climate operations, and 80% gender. And we've had 14 commercial closures. So, what are the new things that y'all might be interested in looking at? We have a bid for a solar power IPP for 100 megawatts in Timor-Leste. I mean, this is the kind of faraway places that we go, right? I mean, you don't think Timor-Leste would be the one that you would want to go to for an IPP in solar. It was a difficult slog. I mean, they were regulatory, there was capacity risks, all of that came in. But we went from having nothing to actually having a really good bidding document and having that go into the market and getting really interesting bidders coming in. So we had around 6 bidders. I mean, still going on, and we'll see how it goes. But these are kinds of bidders that were not coming into the market before. So the credibility gap and the market back gap, the bankability gap, we tried to fill all those gaps. Another project that's interesting in the technology field is the unique digital ID project in Timor-Leste as well. That is going to be rebid. Now, this is something that happens in governments, right? The administration changes, and the mistakes of the previous administration is admitted, and you have to go for a new bid. But what I can say, even in this period, where ADV is an advisor, we go through the whole steps together with whoever is the market player. So we make it transparent and saying, like, we don't agree with these rulings or these kinds of things that they're doing, and now we've stepped out. The bid is redone. Okay, they call us back in. We go back in and go through the process. I mean, it is a market development is really, with starts and stops. So, but with ADB's involvement, you can be sure that there will be transparency. And when there isn't transparency, you can see us walking out. So, you can kind of get the message that it's not going to be a smooth ride. One of the most successful rounds that we've had is in Uzbekistan with solar. This is our third round of solar in Uzbekistan, Guzar Solar. This is the second phase of the ADB's 1 gigawatt solar program. What is very unique about this one is with it's like a $5 million offtake guarantee that covers for 3 months. We're able to catalyze around $200 million of project money. So you're sure that, you're going to get paid for every 3 months, all 3 months of offtake, and then the assurance comes from ADB providing that guarantee, because we will work with the government to get the rest of the money, so the sponsors will get paid every time. Well, we can't guarantee it because it's not a guarantee for the whole cash flow, but I think the honest broker role that we have, the trust in the market that we have, should enable us to do a project like this. Okay, another one that's coming up is Maldives Solar. It's a smaller project, but it's a floating solar. So that's an interesting one. It goes to 20 to 25 islands of the country, and combined it's a 20 megawatt project. And the unique part is that, solar, right? Normal thing. Floating solar are a little bit different. But then there's also the component that we did in the public sector with grant money for the batteries. So it has storage as well. So the cash flow can be counted on a little bit more steadily because of these 3 components that comes together. The most challenging one I see this year is the West Karachi water recycling plant. I mean, even in a country that's, having a lot of uncertainties, like in Pakistan, I mean, I was really amazed to see how the market reception was. I mean, we started with the market sounding and said, like, okay, well, if we get nothing, we'll just tell them to pick a more stable time. But we saw so much interest in this, and we've gotten really good consortiums. So we think we'll go through with the bid and see how it goes with the 180 million water project. This is like the flagship project that we have now. The Nino Aquino commercialization, y'all been through that airport, right? And y'all think that it needs improvement, no? Okay, we're going to try to do that with the government. We just had the pre-bid conference in another room over here last week, and what was really enlightening or what was really refreshing was the really, strong commitment of the government to get this done. The secretary was like, stayed for the whole 2 hours, boom, 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 answering questions left and right. I mean, really refreshing to see the whole government really engaged in, a PPP. And so the timetable is extremely tight, and we want it to be extremely tight, right? Because we want to see the airport improved as fast as possible. So by the end of the year, the bid should come in, and we should be on our way to selecting of a partner for this. And we're really honored to be a part of this project. Okay, and on technology and innovation, I was just on a week and a half roadshow in the U.S., and we're doing another roadshow in Canada and going, I think, next year to Europe. You guys get the scoop on this, but from the Office of Market Development and PPP, we would like to ask for innovative technologies, new technologies, and new efficiencies to be a part of our projects. Now, we don't know what they may be. Okay, for each one of our projects, I think there's a part that could fit in. And that's where we're asking all of the private sector consultants, partners, and companies to, give us some ideas and see, where they may fit into the advice that we give to our projects. It may take a little while because, governments sometimes are a little squishy on, getting new ideas in. Hopefully, better, cheaper, faster to our clients and to provide better public services or better infrastructure for the people of our countries. So we will try to do this with or without the innovative component, blended finance to make it easier. We call it paperclip finance because you're absolutely not sure whether you'll get the financing or not on the concessional basis because there will be a due diligence part that comes for each of the sponsors. But if you pass, you'll get this concessional fund. So it will, now again, we haven't done this yet because we haven't gotten any great buyers, but we're hoping that, with the great ideas coming from the private sector, that we'll be able to combine and bring a bid like this, hopefully next year. Okay? Okay, so our clients and partners, you can see we work with a lot of people, and we have some case studies. I'm running out of time, so thank you very much, and we'll take any questions. Okay, no questions? No. Oh. Blended finance, in the terms that we're talking about here, would be like we have a public sector window for our concessional funds called, private sector window called our ADF funds. And that could be provided to private sector at a less than market rate. So cheaper money, longer terms, to make that innovative component or that new technology more affordable for the countries. So that's what we mean by blended finance. But this will be done on a bid basis rather than what's happening now, which is, there's a sponsor selected, they go to our private sector arm, and then they try to apply for these funds. So we're trying to do it on a bid basis, market basis, rather than on a selected basis. Okay. Go ahead.
Good morning, Cherry Miguel here, Chiquibo Construction. I just want to know in regards to the NAIA Airport of the Philippines, it's $2 billion, right? So therefore, it's a consortium or it's a general contractor only project?
It's a consortium. I think it has to be bid on a consortium basis because it's not just construction. It's the running of the airport for 10 years first, and then with an extension, 15 years first, and then the extension, possible extension for another 10 years.
So how can you beat that? How can you slice the bidding for $2 billion with other people?
No, it'll be a consortium that bids for that project to deliver the whole of the services as well as the refurbishment of the airport.
Okay. So the start of the bidding will be Q1 of 2024?
No, actually, the pre-bid conference went on last week, so the bidding documents are available if you want to get a hold of them.
How much is the cost of the bidding document?
I can tell you. I don't know.
Oh.
I think it's not much.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, it's $50,000? Are you sure?
$50,000.
No, I don't think ADB would be in favor of that one.
So it's a good trial and error, $50,000.
No, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, please.
For the area, are you considering using solar power, using the roof?
I believe that in the bidding document there was a lot of items on the climate factors as well as the environmental requirements, and also the use of nature-friendly fuels, whatever that means. So it's all in the bidding document, but I don't think we specifically said solar on roofs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Last question, maybe I know. You mentioned about Timor-Leste, unique ID doing the rebidding. Am I not done? Any idea when will be rebid?
As soon as I can get an appointment with the president. Not quite sure yet. There's after the elections, there still has been a little bit of discussions, so we'll see. Yeah. Okay. Good. Last question.
I'm Mike from MDF. I was wondering, the solar projects in, for instance, Uzbekistan and Timor-Leste, there were 100 millions of projects, so that requires international contractors. Can you say something about the involvement of the component of local enterprise development for the operation and installation and maintenance of these projects?
Yeah. So we encourage local players to be involved. From the Timor-Leste ones, we've seen, because it's not done yet, right? We see consortiums with local players and consortiums without. But we do encourage it. The government encourages it, but it's not a requirement. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Cleo. Some fantastic projects, and I'm very happy to hear about the airport. I can't wait till it's finished. The next speaker is Genevieve Abel. Genevieve is the Principal Transaction Support Specialist for the private sector, and I think with a particular focus on integrity. Thank you, Genevieve.
Thank you. This is my turn to figure out how to use the pointer. There we go. Yes, I'm Genevieve Abel. I've been with ADB for 15 years, 5 years in investigations, 5 years in sovereign operations in Central West Asia, and 5 years in private sector. So I know the general scope of the bank. I'd like to start with a video, which I hope will play. ADB is increasingly focusing on private sector development, and in fact, it's expected that by 2030, up to 30% of all projects processed by ADB will be in the private sector. Increasingly, it's understood that the private sector is the largest contributor to economic growth, and what ADB is trying to do is to bridge those gaps. So you heard Cleo talk about PPPs. PSOD, on the other hand, jumps in at the very end to help finance transactions. So what sponsors come to us with deals that are pre-organized, pre-priced, pre-developed, and sometimes even pre-built for financing. And that's where we step in as bankers with a number of different financial models. Our Strategy 2030 operational priorities are the same throughout the bank that you've heard. We focus on poverty reduction, gender, climate change, all of the themes that you've heard consistent with all the other departments in ADB are the same in PSOD, and we've actually done a really good job of bringing our portfolio up to, I think, nearly 100% gender compliance. With a very strong gender team in recent years that's made sure that every transaction we go into has a gender action plan. We process something like 40 new projects a year. Of that, we're looking at maybe 80 to 100 investments. And we work as well with something like 250 banks and financial institutions. The sectors that we work in are infrastructure, financial institutions, agribusiness, and social sectors. So our reach is quite broad, and there's a lot that we're doing actually in infrastructure. It was interesting hearing Cleo talk about Uzbekistan. I think we have signed on to something like 6 solar deals in the past, 12 months alone in Uzbekistan, and we're looking to do more. So solar is a really big space right now for ADB. The products that we come to the table with include debt, equity, guarantees, blended finance, and technical assistance. We draw on our own source of financing. You heard Cleo talk about ADF, but we also leverage funds by bilateral donors and special pockets of money, like climate change money that certain governments make available. So we bring to the table not only ADB money, but we help leverage other people's money as well. The programs that we have include trade finance, supply chain finance, and microfinance. And through those programs, we reach quite a broad scope in helping to develop more sophisticated banking practices in Asia that allow for increased trade and exchange. The projects that get selected by PSOD need to be inclusive, they need to be replicable and scalable, transformational, sustainable, aligned with ADB strategies and agenda, and they have to be bankable. And the bankability charge, I think, is one of the most difficult ones to find often. This is a map showing our regional presence. We are increasingly present in developing member countries. We have an office in Singapore that reaches out to the Asian markets, as well as staff in India, Georgia, Vietnam, and elsewhere. We're also increasingly working hand in hand with the public sector, and so I'm seeing deals come through where it's a blended team of public sector and private sector specialists. That said, on the direct engagement with the ADB side, there is comparatively limited opportunity for consultancy with PSOD because we don't tend to hire the consultants. On the public side, they're designing programs. They need people to come in and put together the packages. By the time they come to PSOD, the packages have pretty much already been cooked. So I'm going to run through some details about the contracts that we award. There are approximately 200 a year. You can see here how it's broken down. About half of them are individual contracts. The others are to firms. More internationals than nationals. And the green shows you staff consultants versus technical assistants. And what this means in ADB lingo, if it's a staff consultant position, it's more likely to be long-term and to step in and play a role for ADB. So that's kind of a permanent semi-staff role. Technical, and also this speaks to the source of funding. We've got technical assistance pot of money and staff consultancy pot of money, and that's the charge code. So more of a charge code than a significant difference as far as you're concerned. This shows you where the divisions in PSOD engage consultants. My division, which is PSTS, is one of the higher users of consultants because my entire team, 35 people, are all consultants. I run the integrity due diligence team. We have, I think at this point in time, 5 staff, but 35 to 40 national consultants who have worked with us throughout the years to undertake the job at hand. And that is simply a staffing structure preferred by ADB, apparently. Again, shows the breakdown of how we use consultants. And this will show you where we take consultants and in what areas we hire consultants. It's very often, about half of them are back office functions. So the trade finance program has a lot of staff consultants working. Where there are project-specific related consultants, they will step in for a unique need on a specific project. And that's usually funded by technical assistance project. So that, in short, are business opportunities with PSOD, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. That's okay. I saw a hand, yes. Well, interesting. It's a very good question. Until recently, yeah, ADB counts the number of projects, not the size of the projects, but it costs as much to process a large project as a small project. We will have $600 million gas projects, as well as a $3 million Afghanistan project. They are equally complicated to process, so there's no economies of scale in that. ADB would like to do more in the fragile and conflict-affected states as well as the small island states, but finding those deals are also very hard and quite expensive given that the amount that we're likely to loan is small. So that's the range. We had been doing more large infrastructure, I guess 5 years ago. Now we're seeing smaller deals come through, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's any degree of success guaranteed, or, I mean, it's pretty much hit in the dark in terms of what you get and what comes through and ends up being able to be processed. So we're looking at, I said, 80 to 100 deals a year, of which 40 get through and are approved, and of which maybe, hopefully, all 40 get signed. We only get credit for the transactions if the deal actually gets signed by the client. But the number of projects I know that we have already cleared that are ready for approval, I think this year we've already signed 24 deals. We have a pipeline, I think, of another 70, of which maybe 40 have been pre-cleared and are ready to be approved, but either it's not working out in terms of commercial negotiations with the client, or something else has come up and it's just not moving. So I don't know that. But there is no overarching reason that we can provide. I will tell you that because private sector requirements are the same as public sector requirements, we're viewed by many clients as being labor heavy, because we require gender action plans, we require consideration of climate change, and all of the safeguard stuff that apply to public sector also apply to private sector. So we might walk in a room and be able to not offer nice money, but at the cost of you're going to need to pay additional attention to other things too, which other commercial banks don't require.
Just a follow-up question. Is there a minimum threshold for entry?
Good question. Is there a minimum threshold? No, we have minimum approval levels for different levels. I don't know that I may have seen 1 million. Less than $1 million, we haven't seen. I don't think we'd spend time on it because it's simply so expensive to get the deals through. No, but there is technically, I think, no minimum. It just needs to be of interest. Sure. Yes.
I didn't see anything when you were showing all these different activities, anything for the health sector.
Yes, we do have health sector. We have a unit that we put together right before COVID that is social services that includes health and education. And with that, there's social sector. The first deals that we did with that deal team, which existed maybe 6 to 12 months before COVID hit, went into Jointown, China, and worked on developing vaccinations and manufacturing of pharmaceuticals in China. We've got a couple of hospitals in India, blood transfusion center in India, looking at pharmaceutical deals in Central Asia and in Vietnam. So yes, we do have public health component and a small team that works on them. It's private. It's private. Sometimes there may be SOEs involved in our deals, but by and large, who comes to us is private. We work with the Ayala Corporation also, for example, and I think there may be an element of pharmaceutical in that. I know we're in energy sector with Ayalas. Any other questions? Super. Well, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Genevieve. Very interesting, and certainly a lot going on. The third and last speaker is actually a colleague of mine from procurement. I'd like to introduce Stefan Basardi. Stefan is a senior procurement specialist focusing on water and currently based in India, I think. Thank you, Stefan.
Good morning to all. So it's really a pleasure to see so many people interested in these topics of this session this morning. So as said Glenn, I'm working actually in a procurement division, which is organizing this event. And so I joined ADB 5 years ago, and previously I was, like many of you in this audience, in the private sector. So I will have the pleasure today to speak about one aspect of the infrastructure project that we are trying to introduce more and more, which is the advanced operation and maintenance of the infrastructure, and using also high-level technology. So I will explain what we are doing today in the water, but it can be applied, and it will probably be applied very soon in other sectors because, for example, gentleman was mentioning the health sector. We see that in the hospital sector, the COVID crisis has demonstrated that operation and maintenance was also a concern, so it can be applied in many sectors. So, as you know, in ADB, we are developing infrastructure to make impact. So basically, we our DMC clients, we are targeting to have an impactful infrastructure. So you have here an example of a water system. You see we are working, as you know, in challenging conditions quite often. So you see that operation and maintenance of water infrastructure is a challenge. And data show, so we have, for example, a G20 quality infrastructure data. Data shows that today a low percentage of projects still introduce operation and maintenance aspects. There is, for example, in the water sector, there are weak institutional capacities and financial management issue. So you know that financial management is a key aspect of the sustainability of our project. And for those who are familiar, there are probably water experts in the room, it's not uncommon to have more than 50% of non-revenue water. We call that non-revenue water, so meaning it's water which is distributed to people, but which is not generating revenue. So you imagine how complex it is for a project to be sustainable in this condition. So, of course, we are working on this aspect, but we may say that so far, even governments and clients are more interested in building infrastructure than considering this operation and maintenance aspect. So that's why we considered that there was a gap. So a few months ago, a few years, we started to work. It was really one ADB project involving different colleagues from ADB, and introducing how we can develop specific contract to attract more consultant or private sector organization like you today to be involved in this operation and maintenance aspect of the project. So it's what I will explain a little bit more in detail, and what is the contract that we are releasing in a few months that is being finalized. So where we are today, you know that in procurement we are regularly publishing and developing templates. So what we call bidding document templates. So you can see that in our website. So either for consultants, either for contractor, we have standard contract templates. And one of them, as you see, was developed in 2021 for design, build, and operate contract. So meaning that we finance projects where there is a design phase, a construction phase, and an operation maintenance phase, which can be for 5 to 10 or 15 years. So this one has been quite successful, and we have more and more demand for this kind of project design in the different sectors. We started again by the water sector, but we see that it's coming also in the other sectors. So we thought that it would be also a good idea to develop a standalone operation and maintenance template, because sometimes you may want to start by the operation and maintenance. So again, I'm speaking for the water sector, but it's probably true for the other sector. When you start to operate an infrastructure, you collect data, you collect understanding. So in brownfield condition, for example, in the water sector, you know that 80% of the assets are not visible. So this construction, this operation phase is quite important to better understand how the infrastructure functions. And after, you can enter in the design and construction phase. So finally, this is targeting how to improve the service to end user, how also to implement high-level technology and sustainable solution. Because of course, very often we are speaking of high technology, high-level technology, but how can you implement high-level technology if there is no a good operation and maintenance capacity for our clients? So it's also what we want to bring with this new contract is capacity building in order to deliver high-level technology for better managed infrastructure. And also, part of our mandate, it helps to better design infrastructure projects that we are financing after this operation and maintenance phase. So again, this template now is being piloted in few projects, and it will be released in the coming weeks and months. So you can, there will be some information about that. You will find it in our website. So just to introduce the key features of this contract template. So first of all, we will use, for evaluating the contractor, we will use merit point criteria. So you know very well this method because it's what we are using for selecting consultants as of now. So we are now developing this selection method for contractor and for works contract in order to really focus on the quality. So quality, experience of the contractor. After, it's a collaborative approach, so meaning that it's something innovative that we are introducing. We think that it's very important to have a discussion and a cooperative discussion between contractors and clients in order to set together realistic KPIs. So we found that often contracts also fails because there is no cooperative discussion about what is realistic to achieve or not. So you may have a client which is asking for the moon, and you may have a contractor which may be too conservative. So the idea is to have a discussion phase, so a diagnosis phase, where you agree on the KPI achievable, and after you deliver during the next phase. And finally, as I said, it's very linked to advanced high-level technology, which is embedded in the contract. So for people who are familiar with water, but again, it can be applied to other industry, we have embedded the use of SCADA, for example, the use of asset management. So I know in the hospital industry, for example, you may have this kind of building asset management systems embedded. So it's really embedded in the contract. And finally, capacity building and training to make sure that there is transfer of knowledge to the client and that the future client will be able to operate the infrastructure. Because again, it's really the target of this contract is not only to focus on the project itself, which at the end of the day, in ADB is about, I don't know, between 2 to 5 years, maybe, according to the project, but it's really to focus on the 10 to 20 years of operation and maintenance, which are coming after. So you may see here some tangible outcomes of this kind of contract, what we are targeting. So there are three different outcomes that we can generate. So you see on the right of the slide, for example, water treatment, or you operated properly. You need knowledge, you need capacity building, sometimes which may take few years to acquire. So we'll have, at the end of the day, a sustainable asset service, so managed in a centralized or decentralized way. So this contract is also addressing not only large cities or large urban area, but you can really very well apply that in the Pacific area, for example, in very remote area. For example, we have some water projects in the Pacific which are very demanding of SCADA systems, because when you have very remote plants, you want to have this kind of system where you can control at distance what are the criteria, what are the different indicators of the project. You may have also water treatment systems. For example, we are speaking about water reuse, which is, you may know, it's coming more and more in Europe, but also in Asia, in India, for example, we are more and more introducing water reuse. But water reuse means that you have a proper operation and maintenance capacity in order to operate these systems. Very well designed, well implemented, but at the end of the day, the clients recognize that, okay, I may not have the capacity to operate at the desired level the wastewater treatment systems. So, for example, we spoke this morning about climate change impact. When you want to target low energy operation, you need to have very good operation of your system. So some people who know very well the different indicators and how to manage them. So there will be, as I said, transfer of technology. So it's really embedded in the contract. But finally, very importantly, we think that this service should also be very visible for the end user. So they are not part of the contract. You know that the contract is between the contractor and the government. So usually end users are not directly part of the contract, but we have introduced in the contract specific indicators, so specific key performance indicators, which are targeting the final service delivery. So it can be, as I said, the non-revenue water, but it is also the time to have a new connection. It can be for an hospital, for example, the waiting time to get an appointment. So it can be very well developed in the different sector and in the different infrastructures that we are developing. Also, you know that very often we have not only to control the non-revenue water, but we have also to control the consumption. So it's coming also more and more in our contract. We see that today a key driver is water is sometimes too much used so the demand is too high. So we need also to introduce some systems, some metering system, in order to make sure that we can control or at least inform the customer when he is over-consuming and when the demand is too high. So this is also embedded in this contract. Voilà. So it's really quite an innovative form of contract where we believe will bring impact to the customer. And in line with the presentation of my colleagues this morning, it's also very linked to the private sector activity because, of course, we expect that we will also attract to ADB new type of operators and also in the future maybe water concession or water contract that will introduce more and more this operation and maintenance. And I welcome any questions, of course. Yeah, please.
Good morning. My name is Mark from HKS Architects. I just want to ask if in the past you had projects where it involves technology like hydro panels for remote areas, which basically uses solar power, solar energy to grab moisture in the air and convert it into potable water, which is really usable on rural areas, that are where water is scarce and not enough resources, or if not, then is it also an opportunity in the future where that's could become one of a viable solution?
Thank you. No, it's a very good question, and of course it's a topic of interest. How you can power some, for example, desalination plant, which are very energy intensive. So of course it's not easy. There are some pilots ongoing. We are also developing some pilots in the Pacific. But again, linked to your questions, operation maintenance, of course, will be very important for this kind of technology, because a solar panel, well, it's very useful, but when it's broken, when it's you have an issue with that, you need to also have a team knowledge and capacity to repair it. So it's being piloted in some project, and I can give you more detail offline. Thank you. Yes, please.
This model for wastewater, will it be replicated for other infrastructure, like say bridges, rail projects?
Thank you. Alors, as I said, I'm working in, as Glenn said, I'm working in India, and I'm involved in quite a few road and transport projects. And we see, as in line with your question, that operation and maintenance of the road is a key aspect, because very often what happens is a few months or few years only after the road is constructed, but it's not suitable anymore. So there are some more and more we are introducing operation and maintenance period, as I said, based also on our end user service. For example, for roads, you may think to measure the number of accidents during the few years once the road is being constructed, or to measure the number of holes and the time to repair these holes. So yes, definitely in the road sector, I believe there is it's a very important element. I worked also in Timor-Leste, for example, and in this kind of country where you have flooding, for example, you may have a road which is being constructed, and unfortunately, a few months after, you have a flood and the road is damaged. So you need more and more to introduce this kind of mechanism. So now we are piloting this template for the water, but after the idea, and if the idea is to see if there is a demand, and we'll probably do that also for other sectors. So thank you for your comment on that, but I'm convinced that Glenn is energy specialist, but maybe in the energy sector it will be also relevant. I really believe that in different sectors there will be a demand for that. And especially because, as we explained this morning, if we want to be climate resilient in a way, it will be also part of the life of the infrastructure more and more to be able to address these damages to the infrastructure in an efficient way. Please.
Do you include the health element in all your projects? Like for example, the infrastructure project, do you have this element of care for duty of care for those workers who are working at those projects?
Thank you. It's also a very good question. We have really done quite substantial efforts, I may say, in the last 2 years to include health and safety elements in our contracts templates. So we have now requirements in a bid evaluation stage. So it means that we are evaluating the capacity of the bidder to deliver a health and safety management plan, but we also assess the previous experience of the bidder in managing the health and safety. So if he gets already penalized for any health and safety component. And also it's embedded, finally, it's embedded in our condition of contract. So it's really now not only when the contractor is being evaluated, but if he gets awarded, he has to put in place immediately a health and safety management system with KPI, and he has to show to the client very regularly indicators related to health and safety. So yeah, we have really improved. Well, there is still some works to be done in, especially in capacity building with the clients, because sometimes, as you know, in some country or in some context, health and safety still has some progress to be done. But again, we are really pushing for to have this applied in most of the contract. Thank you. Yes, please. Sure. I will bring some elements of answer, and my colleague Glenn will complete. So again, in the last year, there was a really strong effort done by ADB to promote high-level technology and technology largely in the project. As you know, we have some constraint in terms of brands and trademarks, and we cannot promote a specific technology in front of any others. But again, for the water sector, for example, we are more and more promoting integrated in the bidding document SCADA system, smart meters, for example. I know they are also used in energy, monitoring systems. So voilà, we are doing effort, and we are measuring this effort because it's also part of our KPI. We have specific TA, so technical assistance, which you can benefit from to develop the technology. And I don't know if you attended the presentation yesterday of Nobel System, for example, but they were explaining how was their path in ADB. Sometimes you have to. They started by winning a hackathon. And after this hackathon, they were able to have a pilot. And after this pilot, now they are able to. So we have different mechanisms like on which you can benefit. I stop here and I let Glenn, my colleague, to complete.
Yeah, not a lot to add, except that we do realise that ADB is a very unusual beast with many moving parts. My advice would be, if you've got new technology that you think will help ADB deliver its vision, then to reach out to the project specialists in that particular sector. They're the people that are in contact with the governments closely. They can promote your idea. And as Stefan said, we're always running pilots in ADB. So if you've got a good idea, reach out to the sector specialist and have a conversation. That's my advice. Thanks.
Sorry, if I can add to that. I didn't speak about ADB Ventures, but the private sector does have a project team called ADB Ventures, which goes in, which has the ability to go in and work with startup companies, new companies. It can go in with some technical assistance money, which can be quite small, a couple $100,000, which can then roll over into equity development and further partnership. I know that ADB Ventures has brought to the table a number of new innovative technologies. We run into problems where the technology has been abused. So, for example, drones have proven occasionally problematic because they can be abused and misused in certain circumstances for human rights violations. And so we have to tread very carefully on new technology versus potential harms brought about by new technology that perhaps was not what was intended. But please keep in mind, ADB Ventures, if you know of any startup companies that are looking for support. Thank you.
Thank you. Just if you have one more minute, also to insist on one point that is it's important, I feel, to have a client-oriented approach, meaning, for example, the pilot we are mentioning, we started in Nepal with Nobel System, where they have an issue with asset management, because at the end of the day, you will have to sell also to convince the client also to use this technology. So you can use in our website, you can see what are the procurement plan, what are the country, the future projects that will be, you can find that on the country partnership strategy. So it's a document which is available on our website, and you can see what will be the future project. And then you can start also to link with the client and to explain also what your technology may bring and to pilot it. And after, once the client is convinced, I think it's going also much easier. Thank you.
There's no set threshold budget-wise for pilot projects, but in saying that, typically, in my experience with ADB, we're looking at, somewhere between 200K and $1 million. And again, ADB is constantly running pilots on all different types of things. The way to start a pilot is to reach out, find someone in ADB who has a similar interest, and then have a discussion. But there's no set path. There's many paths. You just have to find the one that's good for you. Thanks.
Is there some timeline which is there for a pilot? I submit a proposal, and then what is the kind of time?
It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So it mainly starts with a discussion with somebody. And then if ADB thinks there's value in it, they will draft up the documents and probably the team. I have one request, actually. We are running an unusual session for ADB at 2 o'clock for contractors, suppliers, and large consultants who have either bid and been successful with ADB or bid and been unsuccessful. We're interested in getting feedback on our procurement practices, processes, and contractual terms with a view of adapting them. And we're honing in on contractors and consultants and suppliers in those areas. But if you are in one of those groups, please come to the session at 2 o'clock. We're very interested in having some focused discussions. It's going to be at the staff hub, which is just above the canteen. And thanks very much for participating today. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to the speakers as well.
Thank you very much.